say a few words.
All you wonderful members of AOCR, distinguished members on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I feel very privileged to be here this morning and to be a part of this wonderful initiative and campaign that AOCR has started called Raksha. Dr. Bachchan gave a very long review of some of my achievements. It's very embarrassing to sit there and listen to all of that he had to say. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bachchan, for this wonderful introduction. My association this morning was due to Dr. Bachchan. He is one person that perhaps knows the inside of my body better than even I do. Because his radiology division and that magnetic tube that we go into has almost become my second home of the number of times that I've had to go in there. And many a times there have been investigations that have been negated by other people, with all due respect, but always been very efficiently diagnosed by Dr. Bachchan, and he continues to be a very valuable part of my medical history. So thank you, Doctor, for inviting me here today and making me a part of this wonderful campaign. Save the Girl Child has been spoken of many times, and we continue to work towards this initiative. There have been several medical campaigns that I have been involved in. We started with polio as the ambassador from the United Nations, and after working for almost 8 years, we're very proud to say that today India is entirely free of polio. That is an achievement that has been established by some very dedicated workers and people who contributed their time, their energy, to go into the deepest parts of the country and to deliver those very valuable doses of the vaccine. I compliment those workers really who take the trouble of going inside areas which we never traveled to. We become the face of a campaign. We make and film wonderful videos, talk about polio, but it is the worker that actually goes out, delivers, convinces people, and therefore I have great respect and regard for them. Every time there has been an association to compliment the people that have been working behind the campaign of polio, I've always insisted that the workers in the field need to be complimented the most. They are the people who did our job for us. We are just mere faces. I then moved on to tuberculosis, hepatitis B. Some of the reasons were personal, and many a times when I have talked about it, the medical profession and some other people from society have not really warned me, but delicately told me it's not proper to talk about your illnesses. But I'm not afraid to discuss my problems publicly, because I feel that if I'm able to do that in a convincing manner, perhaps many of you or many of the people of the country who suffer from similar diseases shall take initiatives to not only cure themselves but go into the process of detection, because that, as you all know, is the most vital aspect. I was diagnosed with tuberculosis in the year 2000. 2000 was the year that I began Konbanega Krodopati, and I used to get immense pain on my spine, finding it very difficult to sit on that chair of KBC. I used to take about 8 or 9 painkillers every day, and somehow survived a couple of years doing KBC in that condition until my personal physician, Dr. Barwe, sent me for diagnosis, and it was done yet again at MRI. And that's when they discovered that I had tuberculosis of the spine. We went into medication, and I'm happy to say that because of the detection and the course of medication that I took, I am now tuberculosis free. The other campaign that I took on was hepatitis B, when a group of doctors came to my home and told me about the aspects of hepatitis B and how it is affecting people and society. And there again I had a personal example. In the year 1982, when I was shooting for my film Coolie, I was grievously injured. When I was in Breach Candy Hospital, there was almost 60 portions of bottles or platelets, etc., that were required to be transfused into me, and there were at least 200 donors of blood, for which I'm very thankful. But unfortunately, one of them was carrying the hepatitis B virus, which was not detected at that time. I think at that time, if I'm medically correct, it was called the Australian antigen, hepatitis B virus. It had just been discovered in Australia about 3 months ago, and therefore in India we didn't have the process to diagnose that virus. It went into my system, and I was unaware of what it was doing to my body until almost in the year 2005, when through a general checkup, it was discovered yet again at this wonderful facility of Dr. Bhatkar that the hepatitis B virus that came into my system in 1982 had destroyed 75% of my liver. If I stand in front of you today, ladies and gentlemen, I stand with just 25% of my liver in function. And as you all know, that a human being can survive on almost 12% of his liver. These are some of the things that happened to me personally, and that's why I got involved. But what was more striking to me during the time of tuberculosis and the hepatitis B campaigns was the fact of discrimination against women. Women diagnosed with tuberculosis or with hepatitis B were being discriminated against. They were being outcasted. Marriage proposals were denied. If there was a marriage that had already taken place and the lady of the house was diagnosed with either hepatitis B or tuberculosis, they were thrown out of the house. Many countries, as you will know, deny entry into their country if the lady is diagnosed carrying the hepatitis B virus or tuberculosis. I felt that this was great injustice towards the female gender. And we conducted various campaigns, in particular, that dealt with this kind of discrimination against women. And we opposed it, we fought against it. For tuberculosis, we had the Association of the American Embassy in Delhi. They made a large contribution. We had gatherings where survivors of tuberculosis, women survivors of tuberculosis, discriminated against, yet surviving on their own strength and coming and speaking about it. We had women coming forward, diagnosed with hepatitis B, and yet not afraid to be a part of society, and we wanted to support them and encourage them to continue to be a normal member of society, despite the fact that they were being discriminated against. This fight really, ladies and gentlemen, is not so much towards the diagnosis. The medical profession is very efficient to be able to contend with such kind of diseases. But there were really 2 points. One was to have it detected at the proper time. And one of the examples that we gave during the campaigns of tuberculosis and hepatitis B was, if you can get yourself detected in time, therefore you have to go in for these checkups every now and then there is reason and a purpose and the wonderful medical profession to be able to cure you. A lot of people are unaware that they are carrying this virus. A lot of people are scared to admit, because of the social stigmas, that they suffer from tuberculosis or they suffer from a disease, particularly the women, when they feel that if they were to disclose that, they're going to be discriminated against. This is not allowed. And we fight for that. And we will continue to fight until women are accepted into society, despite the fact that they are being discriminated against because of the disease that they have. Women have always had a rather rough times, particularly in our rural areas, where many a times the girl child is restricted from any further education. There are many examples that I have encountered during my seasons of KBC when we've met young women who come up as contestants and tell their stories. And if some of you have been seeing that program, you will be aware of what I'm talking about. A lot of the villages in rural India stop the girl from being educated after the 8th standard, despite the fact that they want to go on and study more. And one of the reasons, shockingly, that was described to me was that the elders used to tell the girls, there's no point in educating you any further. No point in wasting more money on you, because you're going to get married and you have to learn how to look after the house, look after the kids, look after the cleaning, the shopping and the cooking, and have nothing to do with education. This was a shocking revelation to me. And one of the contestants that came onto the chair during KBC was a young lady of almost 25 years old. And when she described her life, I was moved emotionally. She was stopped by her parents from being further educated after the 8th standard. She was brave. She insisted. She fought with her parents and said, I want to study more. The parents disagreed. And when it reached a stage where she was adamant, they threw her out of the house. She had a grandmother who stayed in the adjoining village. She went to the grandmother's house. The grandmother treated her equally bad, made her do all the menial works. But this girl continued to educate herself on her own. And one fine day, because of her own personal efforts in educating herself, has found herself on the contestant in front of me. And ladies and gentlemen, through her expertise, she won 25 lakh rupees. But this is not the story. The story is when I asked her, giving the check of 25, what are you going to do with this check? She said, I'm going to take this check to my father for the first time after 20 years and tell him that her daughter is also an asset to the family. I wish, and I hope, that there will be time when all the daughters of this country will be able to go up to their fathers and tell them that they are an asset to the family. Gandhiji said that if you educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a woman, you educate an entire family. It is this education that is going to be necessary for us, for society, to remove this terrible stigma that we have. I keep giving my personal example because I feel that if I can very immodestly say that if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. tuberculosis was looked upon as a disease that was shunned. It was looked upon as something that happened to, pardon my language, the lower degree people who lived in lesser means. But I was immodest about it and said, you know, okay, fine, I had, by the grace of God, the means to live well, but it can still happen to me. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And therefore, get yourself detected in time and get the cure. I am always saying this throughout my discussions and wherever I get an opportunity. When I die, whatever little that I possess shall be equally divided between my daughter and my son. What happens in our Indian society, we all know, once the daughter gets married and goes off, all responsibility is put on to the husband or the other family. And the family that brought her into the world forgets about her. I feel that that is not what I would want to follow. I'm very grateful to AOCR and this wonderful campaign of Raksha. I'm happy that there are associations and so many wonderful people who work towards saving the girl child, towards helping her, towards making her a prominent member of our society. They are 50% of our strength in a nation. And I see this happening to some extent with great pride in my own profession. I started my career in 1969 in the film industry, and the only women on set was the leading lady and her mother. Nobody else. All the rest of them were one. But now if you were to come to our sets, you will find young girls in their 20s doing almost everything that the men used to do earlier on. We have assistants, we have directors, we have camera people, we have managers, we have all these departments now being looked after, and most efficiently, I must say this, with more efficiency than the men do in our film industry. And I'm so proud to see them working so hard and proving good results. You've seen a number of films that have been made recently in the past few years that have given prominence to the leading lady and to make the girl the hero of the film. That's the wrong word to use. She is the heroine of the film. She's the most important member of the film. These are some of the efforts that all of us are making, and I'm pretty sure that associations such like the AOCR and this wonderful campaign Raksha will move forward in giving the girl child and the female gender a great amount of strength. I'm here today, as I said, because Dr. Bhatkar introduced me to this campaign. And I'm here today also to pledge my support to AOCR. If in the future there is any requirement, if my face and my body and my voice can sell something like Gujarat tourism, I'm pretty certain that I can do something for the girl child as well. Thank you so much.